So these are the standing stones at Stenness, and I covered them in the last episode, and it's a bit of a follow-on because how each of these, not only have they very interesting connections, and so um, there we see where there's a Stenness stone circle, and there's a ring of Brodgar, and that were been going through all these sites and showing how they connect some very important numbers, not only the archaeo-astronomy that they're aligned to sun and moon features, but the very important numbers of the sun and the moon are embedded in them. And there's a bit of an idea where I've gone so far, and I'll be revisiting some of these because they all bleed back into one another. Also, so give me a moment now, the key feature about Stenness that I mentioned previous, 105 the stone circle, which was 295.3125, well 2953 being the synodic month, and that would also connect to the ziggurat of Earth. So 105 feet times 2 brings us to the ziggurat of Earth, which has a 210 feet, or length or width, depending on how you want to do it. I did point out that there is some exactly what it is, but there are older descriptions. This was being rebuilt, but there is pretty valid, pretty reliable older descriptions which give the dimensions, and that would place it at 210 feet. So half of Stenness, or half of that would be the width of Stenness. 1/10 of that would be the passageway at Casado in France, or the Henges.Once, and these all, even Almendres and these other places, all having these very important moon numbers. Of course, they're also all very much aligned to important astronomical events, and yet how these systems of measurement connect and join them together. And so from Stenness, but now I want to connect to Thornborough Henge, because each one of these structures, not only does it have the literal alignment to important astronomical events, it also has built into it, out of sheer coincidence, that these ancient systems of measure deliver us to some very important numbers of sun, earth, and moon, which connect to the quadrivium, the Pythagorean schools, and also to be found in Egypt, Sumer. Now, ziggurat of Ur is in what was Sumer, Babylon, and the Babylonian foot is exactly the same as the Indus Valley foot from Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. Those 2 feet, of course, showed earlier episodes how they're actually linked to the Great Pyramid. So 1 meter pendulum defines the Egyptian royal cubit, which defines the pyramid itself, but then it's built on the paving stones and the sockets at the corner, and that extra width and height is integral in the proportion of the pyramid to the size of the Earth at 86,400 to 1, rather than 43,200, because it relies on a three-dimensional viewpoint of a three-dimensional object rather than a two-dimensional thinking. Now, this will also link us to Thornborough Henge, because, as I pointed out, so Stenness, 105 feet, which brings us to the very moony number, 2953, as in 29.53 days. Other variations of that were exactly 29.53 or 2,953, but across these sites, all these ancient units just always converge here at those important numbers. Now, what's the other important feature is that we have the stone circle. We also have a raised platform on which they are, and you can you get a hint of. So here we see the stone circles, where the stones would be. We still some, but now we have this feature of a raised bank, and that is 144 feet, which is the width of the avenues on Thornborough Henge here. Also has been pointed out by can't remember who exactly was first, but how it's very similar. It's not a straight line, it's a very similar kink, and it very much features the 3 great pyramids at Giza, how they have that slight kink, which Robert Bouval has this as a depiction of Orion, and these do match that very closely. I'll go into some future episodes into this. I'll try and keep this one quick now. Thornborough Henge, so we have 144 feet being the diameter of the avenues. Now the length of them is 550 meters, or 1804 feet, give or take a fraction. It's hard to, especially over that distance, and because it's earthwork rather than stonework, to get exact where it exactly ends and where it exactly begins. But with this, the ditch, we do have very good idea of a length, but also a very, very good idea of the width. And wrong one. Okay, so back to Stenness, and how these across England, Ireland, and Scotland, we have these similar features, the alignments, but also the measures, and these measures being just so beautifully connected to numbers such as 27.3 or 29.53, which is the synodic month and the sidereal and the synodic month. Covered that in earlier parts, but what's the important part? So now I see Thornborough. Now I've got it aligned this way just to make it fit the screen better. And what's important is that we have the avenues of 144 feet, again matching Stenness. However, back to earlier episode, I talked about the importance of the Sumerian or the Indus scale of measure, these ancient units, and how they connect. Well, 144 feet just happens to be 2618.181818. To begin with, that's very important. That's basically built into the pyramid. It's again shifted decimal place. Now, so the slope using the ideal measures 1.61818 and the half base. So here we have the phi plus 1, and that's the important feature about phi. It's so beautiful. Phi plus 1 equals phi squared, using the strictest definition of phi, perfect phi, as is displayed in the pentagram, or phi minus 1 equals 1 divided by phi. It's just like the awesomest number in that way. But I believe that using the ideal measures, well, it's not a matter of belief. It's just seems to be a fact. Now, whether they were intentionally doing it doesn't really matter. The fact is that the Fibonacci proportions, using the Fibonacci numbers and the phi spiral which emerges from that, we do get the description of the Great Pyramid there. And now the half base to the slope, of course, will give you 2.618, matching that number sequence. Now 144 over 55 also gives you 2.6181818. Of course, it's 144, but then the point here is that 55 plus 89 is 144. It's the next Fibonacci number. That's how these numbers grow and how the spiral grows, and so there's a nice connection there. But however, throughout earlier videos and throughout this series, especially at the beginning, I talked about the importance of looking at the pyramid being a three-dimensional object, to look at it as a three-dimensional object. And so 440 Egyptian raw cubits being the base on each, using ideal measures now. I'll go into more into exact, using as exact survey data as I can in future. But we also have the height at 280 Egyptian raw cubits and 56 feet below. So what we have is the maximum visible base length, and you can see two sides of the pyramid at one time from ground level. That's 880. But we also now have the maximum, let's call it the invisible height. So we have the total height of the pyramid, including the subterranean chamber, including the unfinished chamber there. Well, that's 280 plus 56, 336. Now I'd like the survey data that I've got into there. It's now a little bit, again, it's a fraction off, and so that's why I've written here 0.1.1.1, because that gives us the 2.618 proportion once again. I'd be curious to know if this again, I'm limited to the data available, and there's also a little bit a matter of definition. So, for instance, would you measure from the bottom corner of the unfinished chamber or the shaft leading off it? But we do have 56 Royal Egyptian cubits being the subterranean added height. So 880 over 336 gives us 2.618, 181818. And so once again, we see this through also this method using the whole of the pyramid, looking at it as a three-dimensional object. What we get is these numbers coming off it again. Now it's just interesting as well because that's Royal Sumerian or Royal Babylonian fingers. Well, they also further subdivided their units into grains at a different scale of fingers and grains, but 15709.090909, that's 144 feet, so that's again the width of the avenue on the Sumerian scale. Pi over 2, 1.57079, again this very, very close correspondence. And so if you were to describe pi over 2 as 1.570909, you're really getting close. It's very, very close. But of course the Great Pyramid itself, again using the ideal proportions of 11 and 7, gives us pi over 2, or 11 over 7. 22 over 7 is really, it's effectively accurate pi in any real world application. When we start talking about these going off into added decimals, that becomes very theoretical, because in any engineering application, if you're getting 22 over 7 or 1.570909, you're getting, it's in real world, that's as good as what you can expect to get, because of all the little variations. And drawing a perfect circle is basically impossible. It's something you can generate on a computer, but if you do it with a compass and draw a circle, the compass point vibrates, the pen point vibrates, the pencil lead will get worn down, for instance, as you go around. And so being very overly strict on that is, again, moving away from real world applications, and that's like another feature. So previous episodes of this just keeps expanding out, and again, these are the features that are so important still to this day. Churches will incorporate 144 feet within the nave width or nave height. The great cathedrals incorporated it over and over again. It's written into the Bible, for instance. So the walls of New Jerusalem are 144 cubits, and 144 to have 12 tribes times 12,000 people, so 144,000 are chosen, so to speak. Just goes throughout. And okay, and with that I'll leave it off. But again, yeah, what we see is here again the same set of these lovely coincidences which describe our modern world, our modern architecture. The Washington DC, Canberra, Brasilia, Astana, Paris, all these very important cities, and all their most important cathedrals and buildings, and even lesser cathedrals and lesser churches. It's part of the the practice when it comes to neology or sacred architecture. And just so often we always coming back to very important points. Now, even the diameter of a sun we get from this number, that's on that scale as well. I'll go into that more later, but these are, call it coincidence if you will, but it just always keeps coming back to this Holy of Holies. And I'll try to remember to put a link into the description of a magazine from the mid-1800s called the International Standard, which was all about how the wisdom encoded in the Great Pyramid and how it influences older systems of weight and measure, and still to this day, as well as how important it is into religious practices, traditions and legends and so forth. And so with that, hope you enjoyed and have a good one.
Kitty. It's a baby.
I'm very happy to be with you tonight. Timbaland released a solo CD, What's Left of Me, which went gold. Charlize Theron at 14 earned her second Oscar nomination, this one for North Country. At 13, it's Tori Spelling, and People Magazine is reporting today meetings Lindsay kept
Penny.
busy. Tied at 12, Reese Witherspoon.